Yeah, we on the popping. We on the popping doing what we gotta do. I'm in the video. King Nuskqu. King Nuskqu. You'll see it in the doctrine. The plot gets thicker and thicker each day that we hear as we moving in the earth, and the earth is spinning and the galaxy is moving. Nothing remains the same. So I'm here want to teach you this. I'm gonna show you that. Then I'm gonna go straight from here to here to show you where we stand. So this is how we're gonna do it. I had a way of doing it with the Most Highs, plural. I gotta follow the order. So basically, we're gonna go over here. I'm gonna just scoot on back over here, and we're gonna talk about these countries right here. This is the division. This what makes it seems like confusion. The fusion of the con. The con wasn't the pro. The con was against the things that we sent down here, and then people didn't want to listen to. Okay, because they felt that the gold, the diamonds, the women was more lucrative than what we was trying to do and establish this particular planet. You see, through the Confederation, the Federation, the Galaxy Confederation, and make this a safe haven so other people from other planets wouldn't come here to bother you, me, the children of Elohim, and humanity as in humans. Okay, so we talking about Afghanistan, Africa, Albania, Algeria, America, Angola, Argentina, Argentine, Armenia, Aswan, Australia, Austria, Bahamas, Bahrain, Bangladesh, Barbados, Barcelona, Beirut, Belgrade, Belgium, Benin, Berber, Berlin, Bermuda, Bhutan, Bolivia, Botswana, Brazil, Britain, Bulgaria, Burma, Cairo, Cambodia, Cameroon, Canada, Sierra Leone, Chad, Chile. Then we go from Chile to China, Colombia, Comoros, Congos, Costa Rica, Cuba, Cyprus, Czechoslovakia, Denmark, Haiti, Dominica, Ecuador, Egypt, El Salvador, England, Ethiopia, Europe, Fuji, Finland, France, Gabon, Gambia, Germany, Ghana, Great Britain, Greece, Grenada, We're going to go to Ivory Coast, Jamaica, Japan, Jordan, Kenya, Korea, Kazakhstan, Kuwait, Lagos, Lebanon, Nigeria, Libya, Luxembourg, Madagascar, Malawi, Malaysia, Maldives, Mali, Malta, Mauritania, Mauritius, Mexico, Mongolia, Morocco, Mozambique, Nepal, Netherlands, New Zealand, Nicaragua, Nigeria, Oman, Pakistan, Panama, Paraguay, Persia, Peru, the Philippines, Poland, Portugal, Puerto Rico, Qatar, Romania, Russia, Rwanda, Saudi Arabia, Senegal, Sicily, Singapore, Somalia, South Africa, Spain, Sudan, Switzerland, Swaziland, Sweden, Syria, Tanzania, Thailand, the Congo, Trinidad, Tripoli, Tunis, Tunisia, Turkey, Uganda, Ukraine, Venezuela, Vienna, Vietnam, Yemen, Yugoslavia, Zaire, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. So now we go from there, which is talking about the people, or what we say, the people, different countries, different what we call language, different everything. So now we come into who I came to represent, me personally. I come to represent and to help this movement here. Hold on. It's called the UNN, or the United Nubian Nations of Moors. This is what I came. All this time, I came for this. They was establishing. This is how it goes. You put yourself in a position to help yourself. You take one step, and the Most High will take 10 steps to you. Now, all those people that want to be the Most High, you can be the Most High, but you have to work and do work. So we're talking about the Nubian Nation of Moors, Yamasee, World Yamasee, United. Rock Eagle Mound, Edenton, Georgia. Chief Black Eagle of the Yamasee tribe of the Native Americans of the Seminole, Wichita mound builders, known as Malachi Z. York L., President of United Nubian Nation of Moors, HTM. The Supreme Grand Master Naya Malachi Zaduk York L. He's in his uniform. President of the Yamasee tribe of the Native Americans, United Nubian Nation of Moors, the Supreme Grand Master Naya Malachi Zaduk York L. This is the Constitution. For those of you that was booted off, lied to, in the mix, I will read the Constitution. We will learn the Constitution. Once you learn the Constitution, now you here on earth and you enforce, unify, unity. The Constitution of an Indigenous Peoples, United Nubian Nation of Moors. The Constitution of United Nubian Nations of Moors, UNNM, which is an indigenous people, drafted by Nuskqu, which is named Chief Black Eagle of the Yamasee tribe of Native Americans, the Seminole, the Creek, Shoshone, Wichita mound builders, known as Malachi Z. York L. of United Nubian Nations of Moors, our President and Supreme Grand Master Naya Malachi Zaduk L. This was in June 26. This is June 29. The 2 and the 9 is the same. 1992, this is the year 2021. You do the math. This constitution is the Constitution of United Nubian Nations of Moors and was drafted for the indigenous people of the Yamasee tribe of the Native Americans, United Nubian Nations of Moors, guided by the Supreme Grandmaster Naya Malachi Zaduk York El Nuskqu, Chief of United Nubian Moors, Nation of Moors, HTM. Today, the title Nuskqu is mispronounced as Maku or Maiko. To any Euro-American or European that wishes to violate this constitution, know this. A constitution is defined by the 4th edition of the Black Laws Dictionary, such as the organic and fundamental laws of a nation or state, which may be written or unwritten, establishing the character and the conception of its government, laying the basic principles to which is eternal life is to be conformed, organizing the government and regulating, distributing, and limiting the functions of its different departments, and prescribing the extent and manner of the exercise of sovereign powers, a charter of government deriving its whole authority from the governed. This is the general law definition of the word constitution. In an American law, it is defined as the written instrument agreed upon by the people of the Union or of a particular state as the absolute rule of actions and decisions for all departments and offices of the government in respect to all the points covered by it, which must control until it shall be changed by the authority which established it, and in opposition to which any act or ordinance of such department or offices is null and void. So, in American law, the Constitution was agreed upon by the people of the Union or of a particular state as the absolute power, which can only be changed by the authority which established it. We as Moors did contribute to the making of the Constitution of the Union of the United States of America. Thus, the mention of the defined above, we as Moors have the authority and the power to change and abolish this Constitution. Thus, fact can be observed by Abraham Lincoln's own words when he challenged the American jurists and the 5th Chief Justice Roger Taney's decision of the Dred Scott case, stating, Justice Taney, in delivering the majority opinion of the court, insists at great length that Moors were not part of the people who made and from who was made the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution of the United States. On the contrary, Judge Charles Curtis, 1860 to 1936 AD, in his descendant opinion shows that in 5 of the 13 states, to wit, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, and California, free Moors were voters and, in proportion to their numbers, had the same part in making the Constitution that the white people had. He shows this with so much particularity as to leave no doubt in its truth. And as a sort of conclusion on that point, holds the following language. The Constitution was ordained and established by the people of the states, plural, through the action in each state of those persons who were qualified by its laws to act thereon in behalf of themselves and all other citizens of the state. In some of the states, we have seen Moorish people who were among those qualified by law to act on the subject. These Moorish peoples were not only included in the body of the people of the United States, by whom the Constitution was ordained and established, but in at least 5 of the states that had the power to act, and doubtless did by their suffrages upon the questions of its adoption. Justice Curtis, 1857, dissenting opinion of the Dred Scott case, also Lincoln Douglas debates our United Nubian Nations of More Constitution is authentic and goes into effect as of the date herein inscribed June 26, 1992 AD, when the Constitution was drawn by the Graftee Maku Naya Malichi Saduk York L, our chief. If we are in agreement with this Constitution, then fill in the information form added only after reading this handbook in its entirety. Refer to the scroll 360, let's set the record straight, and the scroll 259. Messages to the Nubian Nations of More. Please photostat the form and mail the copy signed to the address on the last page. Warning. To any other peoples and nations, inclusive of the United States, know that to violate our Constitution is to violate the drafted Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People, cited ECN-4 sub 2 1994 to edition 1 1994 part 7, article 31 and 36, drafted by the working groups at its 11th session, and the Indigenous Peoples Earth Charter, which was adopted at the Kari Aka Conference the 25th to the 30th May 1992 United Nations. The drafted Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People, ECN 4 sub 2 1994 2 add 1 edition 1 1994 part 7, article 31 and 36. Article 31 states indigenous people as a specific form of existing their rights to self-determination have the right to autonomy, which means self-government, in matters relating to their internal and local affairs, including culture, religion, education, information, media, health, housing, employment, social welfare, economic activities, land and resources, management, environment, and entry by non-members, as well as ways and means for financing these autonomous functions. Article 36 says indigenous people have the right to recognition, observance, and enforcement of treaties, agreements, and other constructive arrangements concluded with states or their successors, according to their original spirit and intent, and to have states honor and respect such treaties, agreements, and other constructive agreements. Conflicts and disputes which cannot otherwise be settled should be submitted to competent international bodies agreed to by all parties concerned. Questions. What does the word autonomy mean? Answer. The word autonomy is defined in the American Heritage Dictionary, the 3rd edition, as autonomy, the condition or quality of being autonomous or independence. 2, self-government or the right of self-government. Self-determination. B, self-government with respect to local or internal affairs. Granted autonomy to a national minority. 3, a self-governing state, community, or group. According to the Comprehensive Etymology Dictionary of the English Language, it states from the Greek word autonomia, meaning independence, from autonomous, meaning self-ruling. In the Black Laws Dictionary, the revised 4th edition, the word autonomy is defined as the political independence of a nation, the right and condition of power of self-government, the negation of a state of political influence from without or from foreign powers. This word autonomy is used for what it means, independence or self-government. A perfect example of how autonomy is used is seen in Article 31, previously shown, from the drafted Declaration of the Right of Indigenous Peoples, edition CN4, sub 2, 1994, second edition 1, 1994. Our Yamasee Native Americans, United Nuwabian Nation of Moors, autonomous and sovereign status is our right as an indigenous people. We are not petitioning or asking any government, city, state, or country for this liberty that is rightfully ours. We are simply communicating our status to foreign nations. Question. What does the word communicating mean and how is it used? Answer. The word communicating is the verb of the word communication, which is defined in the American Heritage Dictionary, the 3rd edition, as 1, A, to convey information about, to make known, to impart, communicating to new data to our office. B, to reveal clearly and to manifest. According to the Comprehensive Etymological Dictionary of the English Language, the word communicate comes from the Latin word communicatium, accusative of communicatio, from communicatus, past particle of communicare, meaning to communicate, impart, share, from communis, meaning common, universal, or public. In the Black Law Dictionary, the revised 4th edition, the word communication is defined as information giving, the sharing of knowledge by or with another, conference, consultation, or bargaining preparatory to make a contract, intercourse, or connection. This is exactly what we have done and are doing now, informing other nations of our sovereign status. What does this sovereign mean and how is it used? Answer. According to the American Heritage Dictionary, 3rd edition, sovereign means self-governing, independent, a sovereign state having supreme rank or power, a sovereign prince. According to a Comprehensive Etymological Dictionary of the English Language, the word sovereigns come from the Middle English Old French souverain or sovereign or souverain, from Middle English superanis, meaning chief principal, whence also Spanish soberano, Italian soprano, and Latin super meaning above. The word sovereign is used for what it means, as seen in the Dred Scott versus Stanford case, and I quote, they both describe the political body who, according to our Republican constitutions, form sovereignty and who hold the power and conduct the government through their representation. They are what we familiarly call the sovereign people. And every citizen is a part of this people and a constitute member of this sovereignty. In other words, we are communicating to you the facts of our status as indigenous and sovereign nation. This is a communication to you. Question, just who are the Americans? Answer, no Caucasians are Americans by nationality, being that they are not indigenous of this land, but admit themselves to have come from Europe and its various subdivisions as settlers. What is a Caucasian? The answer, an indigenous person of the Caucasus Mountains that is between the Black and the Caspian Sea. If you are not born there, then you're not legally a Caucasian. What is the description of a real Caucasian? Answer, Caucasians are original descendants from Scandinavia. That includes Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Finland, Iceland, the Faroe Islands. According to the reference library, Scandinavia means of the relating to Scandinavia or to its peoples, its languages or cultures, and also means to a native or inhabitant of Scandinavia. In the 7th to 10th century AD, because of overpopulation and agricultural problems, the Vikings, who were Scandinavians, started migrating out of different areas such as the Baltic Sea area, the Frankish territories, the Caspian and the Black Sea area, which is the Caucasus Mountains, where they mix in with the original indigenous people of those lands, namely dark-skinned, woolly-haired people being referred to as Moors. This produced the mixed race of what is being called Europeans today. If you refer to the Encyclopedia Britannica, volume 16, page 305 to 336, the genetic traits of a Caucasian as far as hair color is concerned. It is blonde, often called fair hair, and the follicles are flat, producing flank or straight yellow hair. The color of the eyes in the iris, that is the pigmented, round, contractile membrane of the eye, is blue. The membranous tissue called skin is transparent, giving the impression of pink. Thus, the description of what is being called Caucasian or white people is blonde, straight hair, blue eyes, and transparent to pink skin. All other Europeans or Euro-Americans are a product of mixing with what they call the Negroid race or Negroid stock before coming to America, and are considered mulattoes. Mulatto is a Spanish word taken from the Arabic word muwalad, which means to give birth, and implies a person having one white and one black parent. According to J.A. Rogers, Nature knows no color line, page 73, states, and I quote, mulattoes were called tawny Moors and sometimes tanny Moors or tanny Moors. Bailey says they were born of parents of which one is a Moor and the other of the same nation, or white albino Negroes were called white Moors. The result of this mixing produced a variety of light-skinned, straight, wavy to curly hair, ranging in colors from red to auburn, chestnut, brunette, or dark brown, and eyes coloring ranging from brown, green, hazel to gray, and of course, in many cases, freckled skin. As a result of this mixing, freckles became small brownish spots on the skin from a Middle English word freckles, is an alteration of fracknes from a Scandinavian origin. So in actuality, all Euro-Americans or Europeans were not blonde-haired, blue-eyed, born in Scandinavia or the Caucasus Mountains. Or the Caucasus Mountains are not Caucasians. These people being called Caucasians, born in America, called Americans, should be called Euro-Americans, if that is their nationality. The same way they took it upon themselves to call Africans born in America Afro-Americans. Europe today, which is inclusive of Spain, was once inhabited by Moors. This can be proven by a research of the family crest and coats of arms. The mixing with these Moors produced the mulatto stock. If all people were born in Europe or Europes, then the Moors being born throughout Europe today from parents of African and Caribbean countries, according to these blacks, there are also Europeans. Thus, European does not describe a race, but a people residing in a specific geographical location. So the three races of the planet Earth are recorded as 1. Negroid. Description: black to brown pigmentation. That is from the root word negra, meaning black. With woolly or nappy to tightly curled hair. Black to brown skin, thick to full lips, gap teeth, oval-shaped eyes with black to brown iris, wide nose, high cheekbones, large gluteus maximum, heights ranging from 4 feet to 8 feet, and an abundance of melanin. Then you have 2, mongoloid. The description of mongoloid is yellowish to cream skin pigmentation, hollow and straight black hair, dark eyes with pronounced epicanthic folds, lacking a top lid and shovel teeth, prominent cheekbones, large calves, heights ranging from 4 feet to 5 feet. Mongoloids all fall under Negroid. That's why they all have black eyes and dark hair and melanin. Third is Caucasoid. The description: transparent to pink skin pigmentation, straight to blonde hair, blue eyes, height from 5 feet to 6 feet, pronounced canine teeth, a plug nose, and thin lips, large bust, and melanin recessive. Thus, this is the standard worldwide recognition for the description for the three races on this planet. All others are mulattoes or simply multiracial mixtures. America today has become the melting pot of the multiracial mixes, each seeking their roots or national origin as an indigenous people. Many subraces, such as American Indians, East Indians, Malaysians, Jews, and Italians, to name a few, are a product of this mixing and thus are mulattoes. And they would be classified as a part of the Moorish race or simply Morenos, blacks, which means that they are all, that means that all the laws of the Constitution, treaties, documents, articles, and acts that pertain to what is be called Negroes in America pertains to all other mulatto groups. According to the Black Book on page 88, the Acts of 1785 AD, chapter 78, states, each person whose grandfathers or grandmothers anyone is or shall have been a Negro, although all his other progenitors, except that descending from the Negro, shall have been white persons, shall be deemed mulatto. And so every person who shall have 1/4 or more Negro blood shall in like manner be deemed a mulatto. The act is to be enforced from January 1st, 1787, according to the Act of 1910, and I quote, every person having 1/16 or more Negro blood shall be deemed a colored person, and every person not a colored person having 1/4 or more Indian blood shall be deemed an Indian. These acts below will show that mulattoes are classified in the same category as Negroes, according to the Black Book, page 87 of 1705, chapter 23, states, all Negroes, mulattoes, and Indian slaves with this dominion shall be held to be real estate and not chattels, and shall descend unto herds and widows according to custom of the land inheritance, and should be held in fee simple. So the European Americans or Europeans who set up and are running this government now and supporting its constitution do not have the rights to deny or violate our constitution because they themselves are mulattoes that is classified as non-whites. Thus, this is according to their own laws. They are mulattoes and are considered Negroes. Thus, you fall into the same bracket as the Negroes. You are not Scandinavian or Caucasian with blonde hair and blue eyes, but are European mulattoes or simply Euro-Americans. The Constitution of United Yamasee Tribe of Nation Americans, United the Wabian Nation of Moors. Now, first and foremost, let us state that we are black, or we are back on our holy land, Wahani, which is the Golden City, in Eatonton, Georgia, which we call Kadesh. This is only a small part of our land. We affirm that to refuse to understand another's culture is to refuse our own. We must never be so small-minded as to hold prejudice. We must instead seek to understand those who would attempt to harm us. The latter, not understanding that all peoples contribute to the diversity and richness of cultivations and cultures, which constitutes the common heritage of humankind, and that any form of assimilation or integration but other cultures or ways of life imposed on indigenous people by legislative, administrative, or other measures are racist, scientifically false, legally invalid, morally condemnable, and socially unjust. Respect for indigenous knowledge, cultures, and traditional practices contributes to sustainable and equitable development and proper management of the environment. A written constitution comprises the fundamental laws of nature, which ensures justice, liberty, freedom, domestic tranquility, general welfare, and common defense. It comprises laws governing the political, economical, and social founding of a nation, the spiritual, cultural, and educational qualities are based on and depend on the positiveness of this nation's government, as well as the governments of existing indigenous nations. Those said nations being indigenous peoples and the Yamasee tribe of Native Americans, United Nubian Nations of Moors, governing also the individuals of that nation. That said nations being the nation, United Nubian Nations of Moors. We affirm the fact that the Yamasee tribe of Native Americans, United Nubian Nations of Moors, known as UNNM, don't have to be freed because we were never slaves. And would you rather remain what they term Indian, Negro, African American, West Indian, nigger, American Negro, or colored, which are labels of the Union Sociologists of North America, USA, who adopted the word slave from the term Slavic, and which is originated from their captives. This is their very weapon which they coined to steal your birthrights, identity, achievements, and even zeal for life. The pains, the cruelties, the unnecessary murders, the lynchings, the castrations, the stealing of our land, kidnapping, rapes, the raw suffrage, and torturing of our ancestors are still going on today, as it is felt today by us, their descendants, mentally, spiritually, and physically. These facts cannot be altered. This Union Sociologists of North American, the USA, are destructive to us. Remember this fact. If the Yamasee tribe of Native Americans, United Nubian Nations of Moors, were to present the written UNNM Constitution to the United States judges and lawmakers in their courtrooms and demand them to reduce their written constitution to defy our written UNNM Constitution, they must confine themselves to their written UNN Constitution in order to defy United States Constitution. If the Yamasee tribe of Native Americans, the United Nubian Moors, Nation of Moors, demand of United States lawmakers and judges, as long as they are in session, to not ever talk of your UNNM Constitution off record, then the Yamasee tribe of Native Americans, United Nubian Nations of Moors, must also refer them to the statutes of our UNNM Constitution from the first statute to the last. Otherwise, you will trap yourself and thus become the victim of them. So beware. In life, every member of the UNNM is well qualified to defend their inalienable rights to their own courts, by their own UNN Constitution, the greatest protection law of self-defense. If a member of the Yamasee tribe of Native Americans, United Nubian Nation of Moors, employs a lawyer who is not concerned with your rights as an indigenous person, they then have surrendered their rights of their own constitution to the lawyer, the judge, and the jurors, thus becoming their slave, which is why they ask for a plea without inalienable rights to defend them, and thus will never get a fair deal or settlement in their courts of law. In the event of a member of the Yamasee tribe of Native Americans, United Nubian Nation of Moors, stand accused in any court of the United States, the only judge that has the right to preside over the court is a judge according to the 3rd Article, Section 1 of the United States Constitution, where it states, the 3rd Article, Section 1, that the judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court, and in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. The judges of both of the Supreme and inferior courts shall hold their office during good behavior, and shall at the stated time receive for their service a compensation which shall not be diminished during their continual office. So any judge's salary that has been diminished during his term of office, meaning that he has paid taxes, that he has paid insurance or benefits or any other type of deductions, is not a judge. Because according to the Constitution, their compensation or salary shall not be diminished. Thus, no other judge can preside over the court according to the 3rd Article of the Constitution, because they are not judges, and therefore they are not qualified to preside in any courtroom of the United States. If a member of the Yamasee tribe of Native Americans, United Nubian Nation of Moors, is not tried by a judge according to the 3rd Article of the Constitution, then a writ of certiorari is in order to set the record straight. This writ of certiorari is a direct order from a superior court to a lower court, or to a public officer or public board, to send the record of the proceedings to the superior court for review. The higher court studies the record while the case is still pending and decides whether or not the inferior court is acting in accordance with the law. The superior court does not judge the proceedings according to the account. They only review the legal aspects of the case, such as whether the lower court has jurisdiction to try the case. The term writ of certiorari comes from the Latin certiorari, which is the infinite of the word certiorari, which literally means to make more certain. From satir, comparative, to certus, meaning surely, certain. The word writ comes from the Old English word writ, which means that which is written. The past particle of written, which means to engrave, to right. So if any judge refuses to step down to let a real judge preside over your case, then call a writ, which is also defined as to reduce in rank, value, or price, which is legal and binding. You can also call a writ of habeas corpus, which is a writ that orders the public official to produce the victim in a higher court. The court then determines if the public official has the legal right to hold or detain the victim. This writ or habeas corpus is also referred to as the writ of liberty and is enforced in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution, where it states the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless when in cases of rebellion or invasion, the public safety may require it. According to Article 6 of the Constitution of the United States, it states, the judge of the United States are bound to the Constitution and to the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land. Thus, judicial power shall extend to all cases in law and equity arising under their Constitution, the laws of the United States, and treaties made, or which shall be made under the authority of the United States to all cases. The Moors are to be treated equal to the citizens of the United States according to the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, number 244-1, on June 28, 1786 AD, with the ratification date of July 18, 1787 AD, between Morocco and the United States, and was renewed in 1836 and is still in effect today. Thus, according to Article 6 of the Constitution of the United States, a treaty is the supreme law of the land, and only a judge, according to the third article of the Constitution, can preside over any Moor's case, or any case for that matter. Article 6 concludes, and the judge in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding, the senators and representatives before mentioned, and the members of several state legislatures, and all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath and affirmation to support this Constitution. We affirm that a member of the Yamasee tribe of the Native Americans, United Nubian Nation of Moors, cannot be convicted on false charges or accusation, frame up, setups, cohesion, or entrapment, or the likes. We affirm that the evidence against a Yamasee tribe of Native Americans, United Nubian Nation of Moors, must be concrete proof beyond any doubt. We affirm that our nation of the Yamasee tribe of Native Americans, United Nubian Nation of Moors, shall never be destroyed for his or her lack of knowledge of truth about the laws and constitution of other nations, and he or she will be able to defend him or herself with facts. Part 1. We must have statute, truth, We, the people, must know the truth of ourselves, our story, which predates his story, or our own language. We, the people, must know the truth of ourselves, our story, which predates his story, and have our own language, culture, and relationship to our ancient ones. We must become truthful when dealing with each other and must live by and stand for the truth and nothing but the truth, so be it. By language, we mean Nuwabic, the ancient language of our ancestors and the language of our choice, created and recreated for us by our Maku. Malachi Zaduk York L. By history or our story, we mean that of our ancestors, the Nuban of Uganda, who moved westward to become the Almex, the Yamasee natives of this very land, now being called America, both north and south, today, as well as the whole land of what is becoming Africa today. We have chosen our cultural identity and refer to ourselves as Nuwabian Moors. In our culture, Nuwapu, and our language, Nuwabic. Let it be known to all that this is who we were and are and shall be referred to as henceforth. Statute 2, justice. We the people must learn to assimilate, to distribute, and to pass judgment justly, with impartiality, not as we presently live in an unjust and inhumane government which is biased to the Euro-American and foreigners. The better interests or security of a free state, nor the rights of the people to self-determination and fair judicial practices in mind. Under their present self-established penal systems and court without justice for all, they don't have our people in their hearts and their mind to receive fair treatment. According to the first paragraph of the preamble of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, adopted by the UN General Assembly, Resolution 217A, 3 of December 10th, December 1948, wherein recognition of the inherited dignity of the equal and inalienable rights of all members of the human family is the foundation of freedom, justice, and peace in the world. We, the people of the Yamasee tribe of the Native Americans, by way of the Supreme Grand Master Naya Malaki Saduk York L of the United Nuwabian Nations of Moors, HCM, hereby declare our rights to self-determination, the right of autonomy of self-government, and matters relating to our internal and local affairs, including culture, religion, information, education, media, health, housing, employment, social welfare, economic activity, and land resources. Management, environment, financial security, welfare, and welfare. We have to teach our children to deal justly in all forces of their lives when dealing with those of our nation, tribe, and family at home and abroad. Peace. We, the people, must change the condition of the state of mind that we are in order to live a harmonious, well-balanced, stable, peaceful environment. We have to change the course of our lives for the better, which will change the way of our children, where and are being programmed. We must create environments suitable and protective, not as they live presently in a destructive government, without proper representation, without equal media exposure or fair depictions, without equal opportunity in the workforce of the country, that is, job and position opportunities in the scientific community and the medical field. There is not fair represented in the penal system. There is not fair representation in the judicial system. There is not fair representation in the political community. There is not fair representation as well in banking, investment, trade, and stock, bonds, and education department as far as positions and salary and retirements, health and benefits. We do not receive equal opportunities, nor are we respected for our historical contributions to these fields, being the first in all of them, without respect historically, nor with appreciation or proper protection and security, which affects our safety, happiness, health, and future for our family, and as far as military, being abducted or drafted into a defense of a government that does not have our best interests in mind. Nor do we get equal and fair treatment at home as well as abroad. According to the Charter of United Nations under International Economic and Social Cooperation, Article 55, and I quote, with the view to the creation of the conditions of stability and well-being which are necessary for peaceful and friendly relationships amongst nations based on respect for the principle of equal rights and self-determination of people, United Nations shall promote a higher standard of living, full employment, and conditions of economic and social progress, development. B, solutions of international economic, social, health, and related problems. An international culture and educational cooperation. C, universal respect for and observance of human rights and fundamental freedoms for all without distinction as to race, sex, language, or religion. Statute 4, freedom. We, the people, must know that by nature we are a free people, are neither slaves nor involuntary servants to any, saves ourselves, and only in the case of a punishment. We, the people, must know that by nature we are a free people and neither slaves nor involuntary service to any except ourselves, and only in the case of a punishment of a crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted by a court and a jury of his peers or her peers, that is, a member of the Yamasee tribe of Native Americans, the United Nuwabian Nations of Moors, ACM, all of which are and are of their only peers, being of the same genetic, historically, and indigenous origin. The word peer, according to the American Heritage Dictionary, means a person who is equally standing with another or others as in rank, class, or age. Middle English from Old French per, which means equal, or per from the Latin par. The Constitution of the Indigenous. The American Heritage Dictionary and its meaning is not as important as their meaning. The meaning of the word is found in this root of the word, and it means equal. We are not all equal in the USA, so my peers would have to be equal to me of my own race and tribal status. As free minds, we must begin to think as free people, and our minds will ensure us our bodily freedoms. We must reinforce the minds of our children that they were never in servitude or slavery, but rather a victim of a heinous crime of murder, kidnap, massacre, rape, brainwashing, Holocaust, mass genocide, and illegal experimentation by those who claim to have our best interests in mind. However, we are persons born or naturalized in the United States and have become subject to the jurisdiction, therefore, as citizens and of the state wherein we reside. And no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privilege or immunity of the Yamasee Moors citizens of this United States, nor shall any state deprive these persons of life, liberty, or property that is theirs by right, nor to deny any of these persons rights and protection of the laws of the United States, which up to date, in our case, has not been acted upon fairly. According to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, adopted by the UN General Assembly, Resolution 217A, 3 of 10 December 1948, Article 2 states, everyone is entitled to all the rights and freedoms set forth in this declaration, without distinction of any kind, such as race, color, sex, language, religion, political or opinion, national or social origin, property, birth, or other status. The United States must know and realize that we, the Yamasee tribe of Native Americans, United Nuwabian Moors, Nation of Moors, HTM, are not slaves seeking fundamental freedoms that are naturally born in us by nature, nor do we seek retributions for the crimes perpetrated against us, but simply that the constitutional laws of the United States and its amendments be respected, as well as the treaties and declarations that entitles us to our freedom from oppression of a government that we feel does not have our best interests in mind. A prisoner is only in prison as far as he accepts his or her imprisonment. We do not seek rights that are already ours. We are a free and sovereign people. This fact is backed up by the second paragraph of the preamble of the International Convention of the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination. Considering that the Universal Declaration of Human Rights proclaims that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and in rights, and that everyone is entitled to all the rights and freedom set out therein without distinction of any kind, in particular as to race, color, or origin. Statute 5, love. We, the people, must relearn to love ourselves. We must care. We must love our images, our cultures, our past contributions to world improvements and accomplishments. This would breed the love of others as we learn to love our Nuwabian Moorish selves. that is both our appearance as well as our intelligence. We must relearn to accept all Nubian Moors as family and tribes and nations. We are one community, our people, with the same origin. We must reject all foreign given titles that we do not choose to be called or identified by. We must reject all religions and cultures that do not highlight our presence and our cultures. Respect each other and every foreign religion, culture, respect each other and every foreign religion, culture, people, and their customs in the environments in which they belong. The freedom of choice and self-determination in the environments in which they belong. We must become more concerned with the health, welfare, environment, economics, and mental and physical stability of each other. Let me go back over that. We must care. We must love our images, our culture, our past contributions to world improvement and accomplishments. This will breed the love of others as we learn to love our Nubian Moorish selves. That is both our appearance as well as our intelligence. We must relearn to accept all Nubian Moors as family and tribes and nations, plural. We are one community or people with the same origin. We must reject all foreign given titles that we do not choose to be called or identified by. We must reject all religions and cultures that do not highlight our presence and culture. We must respect each and every foreign religion, culture, people, and their customs in the environments in which they belong. The freedoms of choice and self-determination in the environments in which they belong. We must become more concerned with the health, wealth, environment, economic, mental, and physical stability of each other. We must do all in our power to prevent our people from mental depression and physical degradation, self-destruction by the use of any and all substance of abuse. For we practice by nature healthy living before we came in contact with those who wish us physical and mental harm. We are indeed our brother's keeper. Joy. We must create our own happiness, recreation, entertainment, enjoyment by utilizing our cultural backgrounds, our customs, our tradition, dances, and musical instruments. We must take the responsibility for our own happiness, both spiritually and physically, for we are unlike those around us and amongst whom we presently live. We are subject to their subliminal as well as their outright seduction through their ideas of entertainment, which is predominantly sex, violence, murder, greed, destruction of property and vehicles, portrayal of supernatural, unrealistic environments, places, and people, a conscious attempt through European and Euro-American supremacy to undermine all other races of people by control of the media, the cinema, television, radio, record, CD, tape, dates, entertainment, forums, plays, books, magazine, periodicals, billboards, posters, leaflets, comic books are all vicious attempts to create in the minds of all other races other than European and Europe Americans an inferior complex. According to the draft Declaration of Rights of Indigenous People, ECN 4 sub 2, 1994, and 2, edition 1, 1994, page 1. In Article 12, it states, indigenous people have the right to practice and revitalize their cultural traditions and customs. This includes the right to maintain, protect, and develop the past, present, and future manifestations of their culture, such as archaeological, historical sites, archaeological and historical sites, artifacts, designs, ceremonies, technologies, and visual and performing arts and literature, as well as the right to restitution of cultural, intellectual, religious, and spiritual property taken without the free and informed consent or in violation of their laws, traditions, and customs. Any attempt on the part of any culture or race to portray themselves in a manner in which to induce self-respect and dignity in their youth is met with rejection, objection, and the declaration of the terms such as cult, militant, subversive, anti-government, or racism. We must ignore these insecurities and positively control the course, the minds, and the souls of our people's future. We must encourage joy and happiness with all and everyone, regardless of race, creed, or color, in a respectful manner at all times. We must share, but never impose our beliefs, customs, and traditions on those not willing to accept or participate. This practice is a universal law for all races, culture, and religious dogmas. According to the draft Declaration of the People Rights of Indigenous, it states, indigenous individual people are free and equal to all other individuals and peoples in dignity and rights, and have the right to be free from any kind of adverse discrimination, and particularly that based on their indigenous origin or identity. Statute 7, unity. We, the people, must become one in mind, body, soul, wants, pursuits, and learn to live together as a family. Meaning, we have to drop our personal worldly pursuits and to learn to live for, of, and by each other. For our future assurance, we must work together, cooperate, and facilitate the access, qualifications, skills, artistic abilities, and those in our own nation, to create stable, sound, productive, and progressive communities of unity. Success. We the people, must reinstall in our people the reality that success and succession comes from cooperation and participation. We must work together to accomplish the goals that will result in our success as a people. We must support each other in all manners of life. We must learn to depend on trust, respect, and assist one another in order to succeed in any and all of our undertakings. We must utilize our highest potential. We must learn to proceed through blocks, over hurdles, and through trenches that are set up to hinder our process, to hinder our growth and success by those who fear our ability of self-rule, government, determination, and productivity as a people. The disagreeable beings, being their force or human, spend much time trying to deceive us into thinking less of ourselves and our kind. We must set vivid, not vague goals for ourselves as a sovereign nation and put forth in making the best of our time and substance, skills, talents, and education in order to be a successful nation. Statute 9, law. We, the people, must not make nor accept any law that do not pertain to us as a people by nature. We are not to respect laws made, forced, or enforced upon us by those who do not have our best interests, our health, our welfare, or our wealth in mind. We are to avoid religious restrictions and laws that do not to date been proven beyond any doubt to have been inscribed by any or some supernatural being for us to help us. We are not to obey any laws by or between any people while we were in captivity or being held against our will. Laws made for the settler and his own people, not us Native American Moors or those of us who are of African origin and other people of color. We are not to create laws for others that do not apply to their nature or safety and well-being. We are to respect the laws of others that pertain to them, not to the point of abiding by them, but simply out of due respect of their principle of law and enforcement. We are to enforce our laws amongst our sovereign nation members, according to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, adopted by the UN General Assembly, Resolution 217A, 3 of 10 December 1948, where it states, whereas it is essential if man is not to be compelled to have recourse as a last resort to rebel against tyranny and oppression, that human rights should be protected by the rule of law. We are to make laws that are acceptable, agreeable, and compromisable to all indigenous people of our nation. We're not to impose curfews or put restrictions on individuals from self-determination and pursuits that are in violation of others' privacy or safety. We are not to live by the laws agreed upon in the Constitution of the Yamasee tribe of Native Americans. We are to live by the laws agreed upon the Constitution of the Yamasee tribe of Native Americans, the United Nuwabian Nations of Moors, the United Nuwabian Nation of Moors, all legislative powers mentioned in these 9 statutes shown above of our Constitution, inscribed and given, shall be vested in the Yamasee tribe of Native Americans, United Nuwabian Nations of Moors, indigenous people of the world. The position of Nuskqu, or the Supreme Grand Master, is eternal. The Nuskqu will choose his successor before moving on to a higher life. The successor will be the preference of the people, working of, for, and by the people. He or she will be of the bloodline of the family, tribe, clan of the Yamasee tribe of the Native Americans, United Nuwabian Nations of Moors only. If the Nuskqu has an timely departure of a higher life, the sacred council of the 9 to 13 clan mothers appointed by the Nuskqu, Malachi, Zudu, York-El, Chief, Black Eagle, will make the decision as to who the next successor will be. This office shall be filled by the person or people duly preferred by the members of the Yamasee tribe of Native Americans, United Nuwabian Nations of More, to ensure fair decisions and judgments and petitions and enactments. A board must be elected to legislate requests on the part of the above-mentioned people. Other elections are to be occurred for offices of the newly formed government every 9 years and may be re-elected, provided that of the new officials, they are qualified by credentials, actions, practice, character, and health, both physically and mentally, to occupy the seats of this newly formed government. Any officer can and will be removed by the people for incompetency, indecency, dishonesty, biases, instability of health, both physical or mental. Part 2, Statute 10. The basic humane necessities, Section 1. We, Yamasee tribe of Native Americans, the United Nuwabian Nations of Moors, as well as each human, have a natural right to food, clothing, shelter, and medical attention. For in any society, this is humane according to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights adopted by the UN General Assembly 217A 3 of December 10th, 1948, Article 25, and it states, everyone has the right to a standard of living adequate for the health and well-being of himself and his family, including food, clothing, housing, and medical care, and necessary social services, and the right to security in the event of unemployment, sickness, disability, widowhood, old age, and other lack of livelihood in circumstances beyond his control. Protection, Statute 11, Section 1. We, the Yamasee tribe, the Native Americans, United Nuwabian Moor, Nation of Moors, have the inalienable right to take the necessary means within our own laws as he or she fits to be secure in our being, as well as our property, family, friends, and personal effects. This also pertains to our inalienable rights to keep and bear arms on our beings, as well as our own property. According to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, adopted by the UN General Assembly, Resolution 217A 3 of December 10th, 1948, Article 3. Article 3 states, everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of person. Everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of person. Section 2. We, the United Nuwabian Nation of Moors, have the inalienable right to demarcate our traditional territories. The definition of territory includes space, air, land, and sea. We, United Nuwabian Nation of Moors, must promote traditional analysis of traditional land rights in all our territory. According to the Appendix 3, Indigenous Peoples, Earth Charter, Human Rights, and International Law, number 39, traditional indigenous territorial boundaries, including the waters, must be respected. The draft Constitution of the Rights of Indigenous People, ENCN 4 sub 2 194, 1994, 2, edition 1, page 1 state, recognizing the urgent need to respect, to promote, to inherit rights and characteristics of indigenous peoples, especially their rights to their lands, territory, and resources, which derive from their political, economic, and social structures, and from their cultures, spiritual traditions, historically, and philosophies. Convinced that control by indigenous people over developments affecting them and their lands, territories, and resources will enable them to maintain and strengthen their institutions, cultures, traditions, and to promote their development in accordance with their aspirations and needs. Statute 12, Legal Matters, Section 1. For all legal matters, a member of the Yamasee tribe of Native Americans, United Nuwabian Nations or more, cannot be accused or held for a violation of a political code such as the Uniform Commercial Codes or any other codes of another nation. The Yamasee tribe of the Native Americans, United Nuwabian Nations or more, and other nations and peoples should take effective legislation, administration, judicial, tribal, and other measures to prevent acts of torture in any territory under jurisdiction, in our jurisdiction. I'm going to read that again. I'm going to go all the way back up. For all, this is Statute 12, Legal Matters. For all legal matters, a member of the Yamasee tribe of the Native Americans, United Nuwabians Nation of Moors, cannot be accused or held for a violation of a political code such as the Uniform Commercial Codes or any other codes of another nation. The Yamasee tribe of Native Americans, the United Nuwabians Nations of Moors, and other nations and peoples should take effective legislative, administrative, judicial, tribal, or other measures to prevent acts of torture in any territory under our jurisdiction. According to the World Campaign for Human Rights Convention against Torture and Other Cruel, Inhumane, or Degrading Treatment or Punishment, Resolution 3946, adopted by the General Assembly on December 10th, 1984, Article 2 states, each state party takes effective legislative, administrative, judicial measures to prevent acts of torture in any territory under its jurisdiction. According to the World Campaign for Human Rights Convention against Torture and Other Cruel, Inhumane, Degrading Treatments or Punishment under Resolution 3946, adopted by the General Assembly on 10 December 1984, Article 4 states, each state party shall ensure that all acts of torture are offenses under its criminal law. The same shall apply to any attempt to commit torture or to an act by any person which constitute complicity or participation in torture. Each state party shall make these offenses punishable by appropriate penalties which take into account their grave nature. Within the Yamasee tribe of the Native Americans, United Nuwabian Nations or more, any medical personnel, public officials, educators, counselors, etc., and other person must be educated and given information regarding the prohibition against torture and must be included in their training, especially those who may be involved in the custody, interrogation, or treatment of any individual subjected to any form of arrest, detention, or imprisonment. The World Campaign for Human Rights Convention Against Torture and other cruel, inhumane, degrading treatment or punishment under the Resolution 3946 adopted by the General Assembly on 10 December 1984, Part 1, Article 1 states, Article 1, for the provision of this convention, the term torture means any act by which severe pain or suffering, whether physically or mentally, is intentionally inflicted on a person for such purposes as obtaining from him or a third person information or a confession, punishing him for an act he or a third party has committed, or let me go back over that. For the purpose of this convention, the term torture means any act which severe pain or suffering, whether physical or mentally, is intentionally inflicted on a person for such purposes as obtaining from him or a third person information or a confession, punishing him for an act he or a third party has committed or is suspected of having committed, or intimidating or coercing him or a third party, or for any reason based on discrimination of any kind, such as when such pain or suffering is inflicted by or at a instigation or with consent of acquiescence of a public official or other person acting in official capacity. It does not include pain or suffering arising only from, inherited in, or incidental to lawful sanctions. This article is without prejudice to any international instrument or national legislation which does or may contain provisions of a wider application. Nuwabian Moor is a natural individual who must adhere to the only one true law. According to the Indigenous People Earth Charter states, we the indigenous people walk to the future in the footprints of our ancestors, from the smallest to the largest living being, from the four directions, from the air, the land, the mountain. The Creator has placed us, the indigenous people, upon our mother, the earth. Status 13, Travel, Section 1. All members of the Yamasee tribe of Native Americans, United Nuwabian Nation of Moors, being natural, individual, and indigenous people, are not subject to any political codes of any other nation. Reserve all natural rights to travel the roadways, highways, byways, waterways, and airways unhindered. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, adopted by the UN General Assembly 217A, 3 of 10 December 1948 states, everyone has a right to freedom of movement and resistance and residence within the borders of each state. Everyone has a right to leave any country, including his own, and return to his country. Statute 14, Education. All members of the free and sovereign Yamasee tribe of Native Americans, the United Nubian Nations of More, the indigenous people of this hemisphere, hereby reserve our inalienable rights to educate ourselves, meaning our men, women, and offspring of the Yamasee tribe of the Native Americans, United Nubian Nations of More. So, for we are the best qualified to teach our story, culture, art, and science, according to the Convention Concerning Indigenous and Tribal People of Independent Countries, ELO, number 169, 72, official bull, 59, page, entered into force September 5th, 1991. Article 28 states, children belonging to the people concerned shall, whenever practical, be taught and to read and write in their own indigenous language or in the language most commonly used by the group to which they belong. When this is not practicable, the competent authority shall undertake consultations with these people with a view to an adoption of measures to achieve this objective. The Yamasee tribe of Native Americans, United Nubian Nation of Moors, also have the inalienable right to establish and control our educational systems to provide education in our own language, Nuwabic, in a manner appropriate to our cultural methods of teaching and learning. Measures, Section 3, measures shall be taken to ensure that Yamasee tribe of Native Americans, the United Nubian Nations of More, have the opportunity to acquire education on all levels, on at least an equal footing with the rest of the national community in our environment. In Article 15, indigenous people have the right to all levels and forms of education of the state. All indigenous people also have this right and the right to establish and control their educational systems and institutions providing education in their own languages in a manner appropriate to their cultural methods of teaching and learning. In addition, all governments shall recognize the inalienable rights that we, the people of the Yamasee tribe of Native Americans, the United Nubian Nation of Moors, to establish our own educational facilities. These governments shall recognize and respect these educational systems. The imparting of the general knowledge and skills that will help the children of the Yamasee tribe of Native Americans, the United Nubian Nations of Moors, to participate fully and on an equal footing in their own community and in the national community shall be an aim of education for these people. Section 5. Educational measures shall be taken among all sections of the national community, and particular among those that are in most direct contact with the Yamasee tribe of Native Americans, United Nubian Nations of Moors, with the object of eliminating prejudices that they may harbor in respect to our nation. To this end, efforts shall be made to ensure that Our story, textbooks, and other educational material provide a fair, accurate, and informative portrayal of the society and cultures of our nation. Copyright. The statute specifically covers and protects any and all written, artistic, and otherwise creative works. Since one's creativity stems from one's natural ability and each individual having a natural creativity, it would be unnatural to assume that two or more individuals cannot have the same idea or similar idea. Therefore, it is logically to understand that the only determining factor in any dispute of what came first must be chronologically ordered, meaning what was dated first. So under this statute, the Yamasee tribe of Native Americans, United Nuwabian Nation of Moor, reserved the inalienable rights to copyright their own works, especially covers all Yamasee tribe of Native Americans. The United Nuwabian Nations identification, birth certificate, passport, reclamation forms, ID cards, our language, etc. Every member of the Yamasee tribe of Native Americans, United Nuwabian Nations of Moor, shall make sure that before you involve yourself or allow your children to be involved in any organization, that you do a thorough investigation on its beliefs and policy, as well as its founders' belief. That means when you refer to Webster's dictionary, it would be to your advantage to know what Webster's religious beliefs, his fraternal involvements, and his political outlook were before you use his references or definition. You may join the Boy Scouts of America and the Girl Scouts of America, the cadets, the drum and bugle teams, the cheerleaders or majorettes, any sorority or fraternity that you investigate and find that are not anti-government or dangerous, military, police department, fire department, any lodges that you investigate, or organizations for support and welfare of those in need. Don't join any organization that is racist or any religious group or organization that teaches hate. If you fight in the defense of any country, let it be of the United States of America. If you want to volunteer to become a part of any armed forces that includes the Coast Guard, the National Guard, or Reserves, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines, the Special Forces, and the likes, only do so if you will receive equal ranks, pay, and treatment. The draft declaration, the rights of indigenous people, states shall observe international standards, in particular with the Fourth Geneva Convention of 1949 for the protection of civilian populations in circumstances of emergency and armed conflict, and shall not recruit indigenous individuals against their will into the armed forces, and particular for the use against the indigenous people. Recruit indigenous children into the armed forces under any circumstances. Force indigenous individuals to abandon their lands, territories, or means of subsistence, or relocate them in special centers for military purposes. Force indigenous individuals to work for military purpose under any discriminatory conditions. You are not told that any college student can enlist in the armed forces and become an officer according to the amount of credits you have. This ignorance helped Europe Americans to gain superior ranks. If you enlist as an enlisted service person, you will gain the rank of a specialist E4 automatically. These are promotions that enlistees receive automatically, which are of no real significance. Yet, the Nubian Moors are under the illusion that they are advancing in rank when they are actually not. Even after attending college, which is supposed to be a credit, it is hard for Nubian Moors to gain certain positions in the armed forces because you are simply not considered equal. The following are ranks in the United States Army that enlistees can receive: Private E1, Private E2, Private First Class E3, Specialist E4, Sergeants E5, Staff Sergeant E6. Sergeant First Class E7, Master Sergeant First Sergeant E8, which is a European American, and Major Command Sergeant Major E9. These are all ranks that you will find the Nubian Moors in, except the Command Sergeant Major E9, which is usually reserved for Euro Americans, because there's a certain amount of power and commands involved in this position. The following list is for officers in the United States Army. Next to each rank is showing who are usually in that position. After years of Nubian Moors serving in the armed forces, they do not even become lieutenant generals and the likes. Don't tell me it is because of lack of qualifications, because there are many Nubian Moors who are qualified and have paid their dues. Still, they are not able to be all that they can be. Advanced officers has to be a college graduate. You have second lieutenant, you could be a Nubian Moor or Euro American. First lieutenant, you could be a Nubian Moor or European, a Euro American. A captain, you could be a Nubian Moor or a Euro American. Major, you could be a Nubian Moor or Euro American. Lieutenant Colonel, you could be a Nubian Moor or a Euro American. Colonel, you could be a Nubian Moor or Euro American. Bridge Brigadier General, first star, only for Euro American. Major General, 2 or second star for Euro Americans. Lieutenant General, 3rd star, Euro Americans, and General 4-star Euro American. Note, there are also 4-star generals called General of the Army, but only during the time of major wars, and all were Euro Americans. It is rare for a qualified Nubian Moor officer to elevate to Lieutenant Colonel, Brigadier General, or Major General, or Command Sergeant Major, because he will have power and control over other officers, including Europeans and Euro Americans and Nubian Moors. Many people will pretend that these conditions don't exist in the military, and all you have to do is ask any officer, is this a reality? And if he or she is honest, he will tell you yes. This is nothing new. Just as it is very difficult for Nubian Moor to earn respect in the armed forces. Stories such as the Tuskegee airmail still exists in the Air Force today. It is rare that a Nubian Moor airman will earn his wings. The tests are racially biased and are geared towards Nubian Moor's failure. Although everyone has responsibilities, the responsibility of the soldiers are not the same for the Nubian Moors as they are for the Euro Americans. When you join as an enlistee or an officer of any rank or position, the enlisted person has the responsibility of keeping the lower ranking enlisted service personnel under control. For instance, keep them from forming any kinds of groups or cliques that may cause problems for the officer or command. They don't want the Nubian Moors to congregate. They know when we come together, we begin to think for ourselves, although we won't question or separate the European American officers. It is a well-known fact that Euro-Americans are members of racist, subversive, neo-Nazi groups. Now, they should not be allowed to congregate due to suspicion. Rarely will you see a Nubian Moors have the responsibility of being in charge of a command. Make note that the army is the easiest branch of service for the Nubian Moors to enlist in, then the Navy, then the Marines, and lastly the Air Force. This is due to amount of the illusion of high positions, yet they are still in low position branches in the army. The Air Force is difficult because of initial testing and college qualifications. For instance, a service member can no longer have just a GED, general equivalency diploma. To enlist in the Army or any other branch, you must have a high school diploma to stay in. Not one branch of service wants you to think. They only want you to follow instructions so they can reteach you how to think like them. To only react to commands. The fact is, the Nubian Moors don't receive benefits, salaries, retirements, plans, ranks, assignments, health cares, and benefits. Awards, equal representation, opportunities, responsibility, life and health insurance, as those of Europeans or Euro-Americans. Meaning, if you are not going to be treated as an equal, then don't risk your life. By equal representation, I mean if there are 4 Euro-American lieutenants, colonels, then there should be 4 Nubian Moor lieutenant colonels. Do you understand? However, the way it is set up now, you would have 20 Euro-American brigadier generals to every 1 Nubian Moor brigadier general. For every Nubian Moor combat soldier put on the front line, there will be a European combat soldier to match. This is what equal representation and equal opportunities is. There should be an Euro-American combat to match for every Nubian Moor. Anyone who has ever been in the armed forces knows that this is blatant racism and that they refer to it as a black officer almost never receives a rank higher than a lieutenant. If you take a look back at history, the Civil War of America, most of the Nubian Moors who were in the armed forces had separate but not equal facilities. They were not given the same salaries, if any salary at all. Many of these men were fighting for their freedom, which many of them did not receive after they fought in the war. This goes right up to this day and time. During World War I, World War II, the Korean War, Vietnam War, the Iraqi War, these same conditions exist or existed. They were still separated and unequal, nor were they able to elevate to the position of lieutenant general and still were considered less than human. The Nubian Moors were literally put on the forefront line while Euro-Americans were sitting in the offices. When the Nubian Moors excelled in their fields, Euro-Americans stood in disbelief, trying to figure out how could an oppressed people continue to grow through hundreds of years of hardship. Now, many people will say, what about Colonel Colin Powell? Colin Powell was on the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He was a well-respected man who many children admired, both Nubian Moors and Euro-Americans. They couldn't allow that to happen. Now, When Colin Powell tried to run for the presidency, they pulled out all kinds of information about his wife, Alma Powell, being a manic depressive. They did this in order to destroy his career and his positive images. The same applies to the next sex scandals of the Nawabi Moore officers. With all the information that the armed forces have access to, they knew long before Colin Powell ran for president what his wife's condition was. However, they let him become the military advisor to the president and presidential candidate to talk about his wife and embarrass him. You should not become a part of the military if you're going to be treated unfair, unjust, and unequal. Only join the military forces if you are going to be the same rank, position, respect, and responsibility as those of the Euro-Americans. Otherwise, you should not risk your life. You should also know that the laws of the country and the organizations that you join. For example, in the United States of America, the World Book Encyclopedia, Volume 3, Letter M, under Matilia, on page 458, copyright in 1977, which is just 20 years ago, defines the U.S. military as the U.S. military includes the armed forces, reserves, Air National Guards, Army National Guards, the Marine Corps Reserve, Naval Reserve, each of the 13 colonies in America required its citizens to enroll and train in the militia. The militia men formed almost half of the Continental Army that fought in the American Revolutionary War. United States Constitution gave Congress the right to call up the militia to execute the laws of the Union. The Militia Act of 1792 placed every free, able-bodied white male citizen at the age of 18 in the units to each state. The Act of 1903 made all male citizens subject to military services and set up the National Guards as the organized militia. All the people in the military who think that they are white, this does not apply to you. You are not a white person. If you were to split the races, Caucasian, Mongoloid, Negro, you would fall under the blacks if you do not have blonde hair and blue eyes. According to the Black Book, on page 90, the Act of 1924 AD in part, it shall be lawful for any white person, it shall be unlawful for any white person to marry any one, it says save a white person. A person with no other admixtures of blood than white and American Indians. The term white person shall apply only to a person who has no trace whatever of any blood other than Caucasian. But persons who have 1/16 or less of the blood of American Indian and no other Caucasic blood shall be deemed white persons. This would also mean that every Moor has the right not to join the military or the army in this country because they are Nuwabian Moors. Every Moor has the right not to join the militia or military in this country because they are Nuwabian Moors, and your own law states white male citizens. Thus, According to the laws of the United States, Nubian Moors should not be inducted, should not be drafted into any form of military, which is the federal military, where equal opportunity is not given, nor medals, respect, nor honors upon honorable discharge. Every Nubian Moor should not join fraternities or lodges that do not truly or fairly accept us under these charters, nor shall any person be forced to convict, maim, murder, or eliminate any other people, tribe, nation, country, town, city, or land for political, economical, or geographical gains by those who are not considered us equals. However, under the Treaty of Peace and Friendship in 1787, we as Moore did agree to protect America and did so during the Revolutionary War between America and the British, where Morocco sent ships to protect the borders of America. Likewise, America signed a treaty stating that the Moors who reside in America will be treated as equals. So we American Moors are supposed to be treated as equals. Thus, we reserve the right to form a well-regulated military, which is lawful and necessary to the security of a free state. The right of a people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed upon the purpose of producing peaceful people. If the present military, the CIA, which is the Central Intelligence Agency, the FBI, which is the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and all its branches, as well as the ATF, which is Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearm, National and Coast Guard, Police Force, and its many branches, does not protect and defend the people within its boundary, that includes all people of color, then they have a right to protect and defend themselves. With this, we must learn to live at peace with each other. Military activity shall not take place in the lands and territories of the Yamasee tribe of Native Americans, the United Nubian Nations of Moors, unless otherwise freely agreed upon the peoples concerned. According to the draft of Declaration of Rights of Indigenous People have the right to have the conservation, restoration, and protection of the total environment and productive capacity of their lands, territories, and resources, as well as assistance for this purpose from states and through international cooperation. Military activity shall not take place on these lands and territory of indigenous people unless otherwise freely agreed upon the peoples concerned. Statute 16, Section 1. The Yamasee Nation of Moors, Native Americans, the United Nubian Nations of Moors, will defend themselves and their nations if the need arises. Section 2. The Yamasee tribe of Native Americans, the United Nubian Nations of Moors, will defend our inherited homeland from foreign as well as domestic foes if the need arises. Of course, this will be determined by the Yamasee tribe of the Native Americans, the United Nubian Nations of Moors. Part 4, our UNM flag statute, prevention of desecration left to states. Section 1, legislation to prevent misuse, abuse, and desecration of United Nubian Nation of Moors flags according to the following laws, and left to each governor of the state to enforce and uphold these laws pertaining to our most holy flag. A trademark cannot be registered which consists of our components amongst other things, the flag, coat of arms, the sacred seal, the national symbol, and other insignia of the United Nubian Nation of Moors, or any simulation thereof. It is approved that the United Nubian Nation of Moors flag should be raised on all and every holiday, festival, classes, ceremony, gatherings by any group and members of the Nubian nations of Moors. There are penalties for the desecration of mutilation or improper use of the flag with the United Nubian Nations of Moors. A fine no less than $999 for the first offense. Your membership of United Nations or more is temporarily suspended for 3 months. If you wish to be reinstated, you have to meet before the board. On your third offense, you will be suspended, be suspected of treason. You have thus forfeited the privilege of being a member of United Nubian Nation of Moors, and you will be dismissed. Henceforth, all your legal documents pertaining to United Nations of Moors are null and void. Section 5. The placings of any word, figure, mark, picture, design, drawing, or advertisement of whatever nature upon the United Nations or Moors flags, or any picture or representation of any United Nubian Nation of Moors flags is prohibited and punishable by the above stated laws. The mutilation, defacement, defiance, abuse, section 6. The mutilation, defacement, defiance, abuse, or improper use of a flag, including use of the flag for making clothes or to wrap merchandise in, is prohibited and is punishable by the above state laws. The laws also apply to the possession, sale, or public display of any article of merchandise bearing the United Nubian Nation of Moors flag, shield, coat of arms, or insignia without the permission from the main office. Prohibition of abuse of foreign flag. The abuse, misuse, and desecration of any foreign flags is prohibited in the United Nubian Nation of Moors. Our flags are composed of many different nationalities, which are all to be respected. Section 8. In the event that you did not comply with these laws, your membership will be temporarily suspended for 3 weeks. You will have to go before the board before the end of your sentence to be reinstated. The use of flag on stationery and books, etc. The flag does not permit the use of the flag on stationery, on books, or other printed matter, or stationery, the books or other printed matter provided. There are no words or designs of any kinds of the flag. Its use is not connected with any way with advertisement, and you must receive permission from United Nubian Nation of Moors headquarters. The pledge of the flag of UNN. As I stand beneath our sacred and holy flag, I vow loyalty and obedience as I watch it fly to the laws of our Constitution that governs our nation, to the cause. I hold my head up high with pride. I pledge to protect and defend with all within this great nation, both family and friend, to ensure that all have their equal rights to this cause. I will lay down my very life as I stand beneath the sacred and holy seal. I vow loyalty, sincerity, and integrity with zeal. Part 5. The Yamasee tribe of the Native American United Nubian Nation of Moors, in order to form a more perfect unity, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty, to observe and our prosperity, to obtain and establish this Constitution for United Nubian Nations of More. Section 8. An outgoverning body of 19 officials with 13 clan mothers, 2 ambassadors of each state, 1 supreme grand master, and 1 supreme grand matron. Section 1. There existed a governing body over the Yamasee tribe of Native American, United Nubian Nation of Moors, and any further amendments to this work as needed by its people will be done by this body only, and agreed upon the members of United Nubian Nation of Moors. In keeping up with traditions, we have reestablished ourselves as Yamasee tribe of Native Americans, the United Nubian Nations of Moors. Section 2. All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in our governing body of United Nubian Nations of Moors, which shall consist of 19 officials, 9 to 13 clan mothers, 2 ambassadors of each state, and 1 supreme grand master and 1 supreme grand matron. The daily elected 19 officials, the ENNM, have recognized officials with a democratic form of government. The seats of the Supreme Grand Master, the Vice President, and the Attorney General, and all 16 secretarial seats of the UNNM government has been and or will be filled on the date of constituting a sovereign nation with all presidential elected official seats, which are elected by the Nuskqu, the Supreme Grand Master only. Section 3. The ambassadors choosing ambassadors. The ambassadors. Choosing ambassadors. No person shall be an ambassador who is under 18 years of age. An ambassador has to be a citizen of the United Nubian Nations of Moors for at least 1 year and speak the language of the people he or she is to govern. The power of this fellowship. Section 4. If any member of the governing body is in violation of the laws set and agreed upon by that governing body, they will be disfellowshipped. The governing body can reinstate a board member depending on the circumstances involved by the unanimous vote. Section 5. When vacancies happen in the representation from any state, meaning any ambassador is disfellowshipped, these vacancies shall be filled immediately by way of election of the governing body. The ambassadors of United Nubian Nation of Moors shall be composed of 2 ambassadors for each state, 1 male and 1 female, having equal representation, chosen by the governing body. Power to try and judge those impeached, or which is called disfellowship. Section 7. The Supreme Grand Master of United Nubian Nation of Moors shall be the Supreme Grand Master of the ambassadors. The ambassadors shall have the power to try all impeachments, yet all final decisions are made by the Supreme Grand Master. When sitting for that purpose, they shall be under oath or affirmation. Judgment in cases of impeachment shall not extend further than removing of office, disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under United Nubian Nation of Moors, and the disqualification as a member of the UNNM shall be in effect. Thus, their passport shall be revoked. The time, places, and manner of holding elections for ambassadors and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof, when the ambassadors shall meet. Section 9. The ambassadors shall assemble at least once in each year, and each meeting shall be on the 19th of each month, according to the Nubian calendar, which reckons 19 months, with 19 days in each month, 4 weeks consisting of 5 days per week, and last week of every month consisting of 4 days. Thus the meeting will be held on the 19th of every month, unless they, The ambassador shall, by law, appoint a different day. How ambassadors shall conduct business. Section 10.